Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have a very interesting, terrifying, and mentally captivating upload to share with you. Before we get into this upload, a couple links I'd like to share as well. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and hopefully very soon, my merch store to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Those links are in the description below. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, and the links to which are also in the description as well. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with today's upload, shall we? So I'm sitting here, and I've been thinking about my on-location uploads that I've done. I went to the town of Moreau, Nolan Road, Sasquatch encounter from late 1970, early 80s. I went to where my fate was sealed barn in Fort Edward, New York. And then I was thinking about visiting the location where I had my Dogman encounter in Wilton, New York. All of these are in the same town, pretty much, different little hamlets. But then I remembered something that happened almost a year ago. On my daughter's birthday, November 15th, Tom Messick went missing in 2015. 6 years ago. Where he went missing, Horicon, New York, is only 31 minutes from my house. Google Maps says 31. I say 23 because I don't drive the way Google Map wants me to. But I'm going to go to Lily Pond Road, Horicon, New York, next week and make a video where Tom Messick disappeared. I believe he was attacked by either a Sasquatch or a Dogman. There are many theories. And one of my family members was involved in this case. Under Sheriff of Warren County, New York. He was in a movie, Missing 411 Haunted or whatever the heck it is. He is not a very big fan of the creator, nor am I, but either way, I'm going there. I'm going to Lily Pond Road, and I'm going to bring a couple of things that are going to be a little different than a normal on-location cryptid walkabout, I guess. Now, some of you may be going, who is Tom Messick and what is Jeff talking about? Well, I'll share a little bit about the strange and unusual disappearance of Tom Messick. On November 15th, 2015, Thomas Messick Sr., 82 years old, an ex-paratrooper, walked into the woods south of Brant Lake in New York State to hunt for deer and was never seen again. No sign of him or his belongings ever turned up, including a rifle and a walkie-talkie, despite a large search of the area. Unusually, the FBI was involved in this investigation. This is strange and puzzling hunting disappearance. Tom lived in the city of Troy, New York, and was out on a Sunday with a group of 6 friends and family members who were hunting near Lily Pond in an area of state land that is part of the Lake George Wild Forest. The older members of the group, 4 of them, were watchers in a static position, set on a log or similar comfortable spot, and were in a near vertical line while the younger hunters used the path around the lake to drive the deer to the watchers as part of the drive. Now, Brant Lake is very familiar to me. This whole area is. I mean, it's a spit north of me. My daughter and I go for drives up north, and we go through this area all the time. Actually, Brant Lake is where I caught my first fish ever and got the worst sunburn of my entire life. I was with my cousin. He was much older than me. I was probably like 10. And my cousin Scott was a tractor trailer driver, and he was kind of my older brother. Took me on a big rig with him, went fishing all the time, rode 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers, just a really cool guy. But we ended up falling asleep on this little aluminum fishing boat and woke up with the worst sunburn. But I caught my first fish. I think it was about a 12 to 13 inch perch on Brant Lake. Now, back to the disappearance of Tom Messick. Sorry for that. Since the mid-1800s, Brant Lake has been a popular fishing and hunting area among the wealthy visitors, including Theodore Roosevelt. Brant Lake Camp was incorporated by R.B. Gerzensk, J.E. Eberly, and John F. Malley in 1917. After 55 years of hunting with longtime friends, also senior man at the Messick Hunting Camp in Hague, they decided to try this area for the first time. Tom was supposed to stay in one spot as the members of the group walked through the woods to push deer toward him. But when they arrived at the location where he was supposed to be, he was gone, without a trace of him or his belongings. No sign of any deer was found that day. He was wearing duck boot, camouflage pants, and a coat, gloves, and a red and black checked hat that he had worn for many years. He carried a rifle and a walkie-talkie. Now, just who is Tom Messick? Served in the United States Army as a paratrooper with the 82nd Airborne Division, and he was 5 foot 10 inches tall and weighed approximately 160 pounds. He was an experienced hunter, a woodsman, and taught hunting and survival training for many years. He had a history of heart problems and lost an eye in an accident with an explosive device in his early 20s, so he had poor vision and limited hearing, as well as 159 stitches in his hand. He had also just gotten over a case of shingles and nearly decided not to go on this annual hunting trip. The Tom Messick disappearance and the search. He was last seen at 10 a.m., and when Messick did not show up at the agreed-upon time, his friends called the forest rangers, and they searched for him from 4:30 p.m. until it got dark at around 7 p.m. At that point, half the group stayed and fired their rifles and honked their car horns to attract Tom to the area, and the rest of the men left the scene and reported him missing to the family and the authorities. The day after Tom had disappeared on November 16th, the search started with 13 trained SAR professionals from the Park Service. It is a well-organized from the start. A huge search over several weeks involved more than 300 professionals and volunteers on some days, assisted by dogs, divers, several helicopters. Found no clues, including no sign of his rifle or walkie-talkie. More than 4 square miles were searched, with a larger area being searched by air with the aid of a helicopter from the State Police Aviation Unit. More than 15 agencies were involved, including DEC Forest Rangers, DEC Police Canine Unit, DEC Police Officers, FBI Quick Response, State Police Special Operations Response, and Warren County Sheriff's Office Tactical Team and volunteers from the New York State Federation of Search and Rescue Teams. The weather was poor with heavy rain, but a sniffer dog was deployed before the worst of the rain arrived. Searchers walked through the woods, no matter how thick they were, including swamps, and checked nearby roads. There was absolutely nothing. Areas were tied off with string to box off specific areas to allow a detailed search of every grid zone. It was described as a spider web of string in the forest. Now, we have terrible weather up here in the Adirondacks. At this time of year, right before winter, it is just rainy and crappy. I'll give you, for instance, it's right now 9:22 Saturday night, and it's 32 degrees out. It's clear, but we will have rain. We'll have sun for the next couple of days with the high of being 55. And then on Thursday of next week, we're just going to have rain for the next couple of days too. So it's really crappy up here during this time of year. And absolutely cold in the daytime. This is 55 and that's full on sun, no clouds. So he would be cold for an older man. A couple weird things as well is, he was 82 years old, but he was a friggin' survivor. He was in the 82nd Airborne Division. Like, he wasn't just a joker. This guy was a bad mother. I mean, the 82nd is hardcore death from above. And then you have to look at all these teams, all these people coming in, and the FBI, Quick Response, State Police Special Operations, Warren County Tactical, DEC Forest Rangers, Police Canine. There was a really good amount of specialized units out there looking for him, which was very strange for a missing person. Because normally they just have, the county police, state police, SAR, and call it a day. Moving on to more of this. I'm sorry, I keep spewing. Given his age, searchers were baffled as he could not have gotten very far from his original location, and some said it was weird that there were no sounds of wildlife while the SAR teams were in the operation, almost like something had silenced the woods. The search of the area had many caves, crevasses, and other hazards. Could he have somehow fallen down into one of those for a man of his age? He was really mobile enough. Why were no clues on the ground despite the methodical grid search? Surprisingly, the FBI arrived on the fourth day, November 19th. This is unusual as the FBI never gets involved in these types of missing person cases unless it falls under federal jurisdiction, like it happened on federal land, which this is not. Tom's wife, Beverly, said, "The FBI told me something is not right with his case, but they don't know what. They won't share any theories, if they have any. The FBI said until they make a discovery, they're never going to know." But subsequently, investigators said there had been no indications of foul play. David Winchell, spokesperson for DEC, said Rangers continued to search the area on a limited continuous basis since the wide-scale ground search ended in January of 2016. That means rangers checked the area periodically for any evidence or clues. Beverly said he had been in the woods since he was a boy, and if he had gotten lost, he would have cut a piece of his jacket and tied it to a tree and done other things he had learned. His wife said her greatest fear was that he was a victim of foul play. But you notice how they put that in after the FBI said we don't see any foul play. You've got FBI, the sheriff, state boys, SAR, probably some local police departments up there. There are some small ones, towny. They would have come to the conclusion that foul play was involved long before, and the media just says, hey, say this or whatnot. But it's just stupid how they put that in after the FBI said we don't see any foul play. Once again, this is the wife. The only thing I can think of is that maybe someone came by in a quad, hurt him, got scared, and drove him out of there. I keep praying they'll find him so we can have some closure. I keep worrying that I didn't tell him that I loved him the last day I saw him alive. Events after the disappearance. In the summer of 2018, state police used sniffer dogs trained to detect cadavers to go through portions of the woods and fields near where Mesick disappeared. State police investigator John Diet said no clues were found, but the police investigation is ongoing. In 2019, Missing 411 Hunted, featuring DP, one of the hunting groups, was interviewed. I heard strange noises in the woods, but I didn't know what it was, just different noise than what you'd normally hear. Like what? It'd be hard to explain because it was different, something different that I'd never heard in the woods before. I can't just say what it was. How long in the duration was it? 2 or 3 seconds. No, it's just whatever it was, How far away was it? I'd say 150 yards, something like that. Was it toward Tom or away from Tom? It was up towards the hill, the top of the hill, so yes. Did you tell the police this? I told them that, but they passed it off, Getting grilled by a court liaison officer. Anyway, Tom's disappearance is yet another really strange case. Tom just vanished off the face of the planet. He was old. He was an experienced backwoodsman, a tough guy, an ex-paratrooper, and not one to wander off into the woods when hurt. He had a rifle and a walkie-talkie, and no sign of them had been found, despite a massive search of the area, including all the inaccessible parts, including water and caves. So big of a search that locals thought someone important like a politician was involved. Sniffer dogs, nor FLIR-equipped helicopters were able to find any trace. Was he snatched from the Lake George wild forest by a serial killer or something else? Why was the FBI involved in this case? The investigation into Mesick's disappearance is still classified as an active missing person case by authorities. No, he was not. I'm sure there are serial killers up here. But guys, the area where he disappeared it's hard to explain. I'm from here, so I feel comfortable here. But I know there are things out there that we just can't fathom. I've seen one. I've had my encounter. But if I didn't, I would never fathom a Dogman or a Sasquatch or something other than human activity being involved. There was no human activity in this poor man's case. And It makes no sense. It really doesn't. There's another interesting little tidbit about it. I'll share it again. It's similar, but there are different little things in this. On the 15th of November 2015, Mr. Thomas Mezek, Sr., 82, went missing while on a hunting trip with family and friends. The group were hunting on a spot near Lily Pond in the Lake George Wild Forest of the Adirondack Mountains in upper New York. Tom was tasked with a sitting stationary during the drive by his fellow hunters. 3 other older members of the group were also sitting stationary in a line formation with less than 100 yards between them. That's another thing. If you remember back to the surveyor in Georgia, Christopher Tompkins. I mean, he was with 4 or 5 other guys, 50 feet apart, and no one saw anything. These gentlemen were 100 feet or 100 yards apart. Which, yeah, is a distance, but if he had fallen to foul play like a dude on a 4-wheeler, they would have heard it. But if a Dogman or a Sasquatch, a ambush apex predator, yoked him up and took him up the trees, or took him deep into one of those caves that are out here, because there are iron ore caves all throughout this area, and it is deep, really deep, they wouldn't hear it. This thing would just snatch him right up and gone. And I'm not being disrespectful, because this is a terrible, terrible case, and it's a local case for me. So it means the world to me to try to figure out what happened to this gentleman. But, like the other article, he was carrying a rifle, he was carrying a walkie-talkie. The younger group were leading or pushing the deer toward them, but they didn't see a single deer all day. The group convened, but Thomas was nowhere to be found. Worth noting that the entire group, including Thomas, each had working walkie-talkies. So their walkie-talkies were tested and working. The group yelled, fired shots into the area. Thomas's watcher location was only a couple hundred yards from the parking lot. A couple hundred yards. We're not talking miles into the deep depth of the woods of the Adirondacks. We're talking, no more than a football field away from a parking lot. They were honking their horn, continuously yelling. 300 plus person search team was involved. This is another thing that first article failed to mention. 300 plus search party was involved, including dogs, divers, state police, helicopters, forest rangers, SNR teams, searching 5 miles. The Air National Guard even went over the area with infrared. The SNR teams employed bump lines with string tied to trees in order to grate grids where people would search to make sure nothing was missed. This is, they literally just gridlocked this whole place. So, I mean, even if a piece of his jacket was ripped, they would have found it. And they found nothing. But who knows? Did they look up? I don't think so, but you know what? When I go to the location, I'm going to be looking up, down, everywhere, all around. Because, so yeah, he had some health problems, heart problems, this and that. But if he had a heart attack, he would have dropped right there. They would have found him. Like they said, 82nd Airborne, he taught survival, taught hunting throughout his life. He's not a dummy. He's not some, we have tourists that come from like Montreal, or we have tourists that come from Long Island. He's not like those guys that come down with their millions and millions of dollars and their, you know, $4,000 rifle to go hunting and just get lost and just keep going. No, he knew what to do. He would sit his ass down, like his wife said, tear some clothing, mark his area, start a fire, try to communicate on his walkie, take a couple shots up into the air. This guy was not at 82. Yes, he was old, but you can't let that get you. He was still mobile to go on a hunt like this. What was a bit strange, IMO, is the FBI immediately got involved 4 days after. Thomas was a long-retired Air Force veteran, but nobody of importance. Oh, really? He was nobody of importance. Well, he was important to his family. So, I mean, really, come on. That's just harsh. Why did the FBI get involved in this missing elderly hunter with no suspected foul play? Also, whoever wrote this article is a friggin' complete moron, because Thomas was a long retired Air Force veteran. Well, the 82nd Airborne Division is not the Air Force. It's the United States Army. Death from above, baby. Death from above. Oh my God, no pun intended. No pun intended. Whew. God, I hope I'm wrong on that one. Finally, one of Thomas Mezik's fellow watchers and longtime friend said while he was sitting and waiting, he heard strange noise that he never heard in the woods before. Strange to the point he remembered it, which happened before Thomas was known to be missing. He said he did tell the police, but nothing obviously could come from a strange noise. The man said he heard a loud snapping or crack sound, and he didn't know what it was and could not relate it to anything he has ever heard in this woods before. The noise came from up on a hill, not where Thomas was last seen, but only an estimated 150 yards away. Wow. Could it have been a dogman? Could that dogman have stood up? Could it have been in quadruped mode, stood up in that snapping, snap, crackle, pop noise that Mr. Mezik's friend heard? Was that of a dogman, the apex predator, or one of, because you got two, Sasquatch and the dogman out there, and stood up and rushed Mr. Mezik and brought him up a tree, or down in one of the caves, which I'm assuming they did probably go into the mouth of the caves and look around. But who knows how far deep they went in. I mean, let's say this really happened the way I'm saying it did, that dogman would have brought him up in the trees, which we've seen dogmen bring deer undressed right up a tree and leave them there. Or he was traveling so fast and just right through into a cave and just kept going. He doesn't need to see. He can see. It's a dog man. They can see in the dark. They don't need lights to run through a cave's tunnel and have their dinner. So, like I said, I am going to the location. And I've got some interesting things that I'm going to bring with me. Things that other cryptid researchers don't bring or don't think about bringing. And I'm not saying that I'm smarter than anyone. It's just I've thought long and hard about how to really come about at this incident and try to get some sort of information. And I will use whatever I have to hopefully get something, hopefully get a sign, hopefully just, and I hope that I don't see something either. But when I go there, I'm going to be looking up, I'm going to be looking down, and I'm going to be looking all around. And I would really probably lose my marbles if I went and did what I'm going to do and either found some sort of evidence or came back with some sort of evidence. And you'll see what I'm talking about when I'm done. But yeah, so that'll be very intense and insane. And I hope you guys appreciate my trying to make it different for you guys. I just want to kind of expand the channel and make it more educational, more informative, and, you know, not just the blasé couple of encounters read and wait until tomorrow for another batch. You know, I really appreciate you guys, and you know, since I started this channel, a lot has changed and a lot has happened, and it's worth it. I mean, God, you guys are friggin' awesome. So I'm going to do everything in my power to make you guys happy with what I do with the channel from now on. So with that, guys, I want to thank you for all your support. I want to encourage everyone to be kind to each other. We don't know when our last day is going to be in front of us or behind us or whenever. So with that, I pray that the Great Spirit watches over all of us and guides us through our path in life. And farewell, my friends.